Recovery Project, which is from the Utah Department of Human Services. And today we'll be talking about skills for psychological recovery, or otherwise known as SVR. You could call these skills essential to living healthy overall life. So this is who funds the teachings of this program nationally. So we're under SAMHSA. Okay, so I've broken, to make things easier, I've just broken things down into 6 sections. And first, let's just dive into how to define stress. Stress is the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. We have to understand that stress is everywhere and that it is natural. It is a natural response, and we just need to learn how to manage it. So a statistic from the American Institute of Stress, 73% of people have stress that impacts their health. And that is quite a lot, and I'm sure there's more than 73%. How is stress a natural response if it is so harmful to our body, you may ask? Well, many probably have heard the fight or flight response. That can also be called our stress response, and it is triggered when we feel threatened. When we see that lion in that corner, our body will start producing a stress hormone called cortisol, which will help us run away as fast as we can when we feel like we're in danger. Our bodies will do anything in that moment to keep us safe. So our heart rate increases, our muscles tighten, our pupils dilate, blood pressure increases, and making us ready to choose fight or flight. Though our bodies can only handle it in small doses and for a short amount of time. So if we have more than for long periods of time, it could lead to severe illness. So stress was first introduced by French physiologist Claude Bernard, and he described stress as the external changes of the environment that change the internal balance. These changes must be reacted to and compensated for in order to survive. There are many different types of triggers to stress, like new experiences, excitement, feeling threatened, and feeling like we do not have control over our lives. And as you can see, there are good stressors and there's bad stressors. Good stress is called eustress, and bad stress is called distress. Within distress, there are 2 types of negative stress. There's acute stress and there's chronic stress. Acute stress are small negative stressors that are easy to bounce back from, while chronic stress leaves us in a state of fight or flight for a long period of time, giving us a constant high cortisol levels, which can damage the body physically and mentally. This is why it is very important to have a stress management plan up your sleeve so we can heal chronic stress if we're in it, or we can, before we hit that stage, we can bounce back out of it. So therapeutically, there are 2 approaches to managing stress. There's the top-down approach and the top-up approach. The top-down approach really focuses on looking back on your experiences and memories This could be cognitive behavioral therapy, which helps people learn how to identify and change disturbing thought patterns that affect their behavior and emotions. There's also mindfulness cognitive behavioral therapy, which helps you understand and manage your thoughts and emotions to find relief. And then there's the top-up approach. One is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This is when they could put their fingers, in front of your eyes back and forth, and you are trying to follow with your eyes their fingers. And this is usually a 90-minute session. And at the same time, you are trying to recall this disturbing event. They also do this with like toe tapping or tapping sounds, and also musical tones. There's also just yoga, Tai Chi, breathing exercises are all top up approaches. And then sensory motor psychotherapy, which is that they re-experience the traumatic event in a safe environment, and then have the client have a sense of fulfillment and closure after they re-experience it. So right now, this is just a little overview of good stress and bad stress video.
When I need to unwind, there's nothing I love more than an experience. Snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef, ziplining, or even just riding roller coasters at Coney Island. These aren't relaxing activities by any stretch. In fact, they get my adrenaline pumping, so physiologically, I'm experiencing stress. But I still enjoy them, and I feel better after them. Stress usually gets a bad rap. Some studies have linked chronic stress to depression, obesity, and heart disease. But my happy experiences with briefly stressful activities got me thinking, are there times when a little stress can be good for us? I'm Vanessa, and you're watching Braincraft, where we explore the psychology in your everyday life. Now, scientists have actually done a lot of studies on the potential benefits of short-term acute stress. A group of researchers at the University of Wisconsin wanted to know if the stress hormone cortisol affects how well people learn and remember. A study that's relevant for students cramming for exams all over the world. Now, cortisol is naturally released when our fight or flight systems are activated. Chronically high levels of cortisol are linked to high blood pressure, heart disease, digestive issues, anxiety, and depression. But in spurts, cortisol works as a signal to increase dopamine, which improves perception and attention. In this study, researchers gave participants a placebo, 20 milligrams or 40 milligrams of cortisol. Then they gave them a list of words to memorize. 2 days later, people who received a 20 milligram dose did the best job of recognizing the words they'd been asked to memorize. So a little stress, but not too much, can actually help us learn. Beyond a boost in memory, researchers were curious about how these small bursts of stress could impact our relationship with others. Would stress bring us together or push us apart? So they put people through stress-inducing tasks and then measured their social behaviors compared to control participants. The stressed participants were more trustworthy and more likely to share in a game where they could compete or cooperate to win money. This result is supported by how communities respond to disasters in the real world. Research shows that people are more cooperative, open, and giving after a disaster. Acute stress can bring communities together too. And the way that we think about stress can have a huge influence on the way it affects us. People who view stress as potentially beneficial are less negatively impacted by adverse life events than people who think stress can only be bad. So think about presenting or speaking in front of a crowd. Everyone has a physiological stress response to public speaking. Cortisol levels and heart rate go up, you might feel a little nauseous or jittery. Would you describe this as anxiety or excitement? The physical sensation is the same, but someone who describes that feeling as excitement is more likely to enjoy public speaking than someone who describes it as anxiety. Simply learning the symptoms of stress may be beneficial and can lead to healthier responses to stress in the future. So, while chronic high stress is known to be harmful, short term acute stress isn't necessarily bad. Instead of focusing on the negatives, think about a time you enjoyed stress, like during a horror movie or while riding a roller coaster. Think of the times when stress helped you cram for an exam, or when a stressful experience brought you closer to a friend or colleague. Reframing your thinking about stress can have real benefits for how you experience day to day challenges. So instead of being stressed about stress, try to focus on how you can use it to your advantage.
All right. So stress is not always bad.
When I need to
Oh,
when I need to
there we go. Okay. So you may be working, you may be wondering, what are the first steps? Well, first you have to accept that it's okay to take care of yourself and and use self-care to prevent the chronic stress from happening. And you have to identify your needs as a human being, and choose a routine that works for you and is well-rounded. So making sure that you're eating well, having good exercise, and having your you self, having self-care. And so making sure that you reflect that if you need any assistance from outside sources to fulfill your self-care needs, that you do so. Lastly, start recognizing your warning signs before you reach the state of chronic stress, and what problems are sending you over the edge. So as we go, uh, as we go into identifying your needs and concerns, remember that reflection takes time. Here are just some exercises to help. So this exercise is you think about a few people that you usually talk to frequently. And each person will you come up by name, you maybe write them down, and you use the emotion chart, which is right on the screen. And you see if you place the name on the emotion chart of how you feel with that person. And also you see what situations are usually in with that person, or how are you interacting with that person. So if you are in the top 3 petals usually with that person, um, great. So you want to be in that light green, that yellow, the orange. But if you're in the bottom, 5, then you have to ask yourself, what is making me not feel so good with that certain person or that situation. And so this is really good to do when you're reflecting on your own needs, desires, and people that you are with. Um, so just using an emotion chart in general. Also, do you ever feel overwhelmed when people just ask you things to do throughout your life? Or, uh, you have to just remember that you have control and that you can say no. Um, it's it's actually weirdly very hard. So first you have to practice it. And a good way to practice is in front of a mirror. Um, and then start by telling them that you'll have to get back to them. And think about it before you respond to them. Because you have to kind of reflect on your own needs and desires, and your own emotions before you shout out yes or no. So that's one way to make sure that your stress levels stay down. All right, moving on to section 2, it's building problem-solving skills. Thoughts continuously flow through our minds, and it it's learning about problem-solving skills that that can help us organize these thoughts to find which ones are a problem that you can solve by using goal setting, brainstorming, and finally, evaluation. Think about just your thoughts as like the ocean. And sometimes you feel like you're just drowning in your thoughts. And you really want them to flow like a wave back and forth. You don't want them to be gone, but you just want them to flow. And you want them to be more you want to be more interactive. And that's called mindfulness. And here is an example of being more mindful, and he gives a very good explanation of what mindful is. Oh.
We live in an incredibly busy pace of life is often always busy. So with that in mind, I'd like just to take a moment to think, when did you last take any time? I say nothing, I do mean nothing. So that's no emailing, no chatting, but even sitting there reminiscing about the past. I see a lot of very blank faces. My thinking is probably have to go a long way back. And this is an extraordinary thing, right? We're talking about our mind. The mind, our most valuable and precious resource through which we experience every single moment of our life. The mind that we rely upon to be happy, content, emotionally stable as individuals, and at the same time to be kind and thoughtful and considerate in our relationships with others. This is the same mind that we depend upon to be focused, creative, spontaneous, and to perform at our very best in everything that we do. And yet, we don't take any time out to look after it. In fact, we spend more time looking after our cars, our clothes, and our hair than okay, maybe not our hair, but you see where I'm going. The result, of course, is that we get stressed. You know, the mind whizzes away, a washing machine going round and round, lots of difficult, confusing emotions. And we don't really kind of know how to deal with that. And the sad fact is that we are so distracted that we're no longer present in the world in which we live. We miss out on the things that are most important to us. And the crazy thing is that everybody just assumes, well, that's the way life is, so we just kind of got to get on with it. That's really not how it has to be. So I was about 11 when I went along to my first meditation class. And trust me, it had all the stereotypes that you can imagine, the sitting cross-legged on the floor, the incense, the herbal tea, the vegetarians, the whole deal. But my mom was going and I was intrigued, so I went along with her. I'd also seen a few kung fu movies, and secretly I kind of thought I might I was very young at the time, you know. Now, as I was there, you know, I guess like a lot of people, I assumed that it was just an aspirin for the mind. You get stressed, you do some meditation. I hadn't really thought that it could be sort of preventative in nature. Until I was about sort of 20, when a number of things happened in my life in quite quick succession, really serious things, which just flipped my life upside down. And all of a sudden I was inundated with thoughts, inundated with emotions that I didn't know how to cope with. Every time I put one down, another one would just sort of pop back up again. It was a really very stressful time. I guess we all deal with stress in different ways. Some people will bury themselves in work, grateful for the distraction. Others will turn to their friends, their family, looking for support. Bottle, start taking medication. My own way of dealing with it was to become a monk. So I quit my degree. I headed off to the Himalayas. I became a monk and I started studying meditation. People often ask me, you know, what I learned from that time. Well, obviously it changed things, you know. Let's face it, becoming a celibate monk is going to change a number of things. But it was more than that. You know, it taught me, it gave me a greater appreciation and understanding for the present moment. By that, I mean not being lost in thought, not being distracted, not being overwhelmed by difficult emotions, but instead learning how to be in the here and now, how to be mindful, how to be present. I think the present moment is so underrated. It sounds so ordinary, and yet we spend so little time in the present moment that it's anything but ordinary. There was a research paper that came out of Harvard just recently that said on average, our minds are lost in thought almost 47% of the time. 47%. At the same time, this sort of constant mind wandering is also a direct cause of unhappiness. Now, we're not here for that long anyway, but to spend almost half of our life lost in thought and potentially quite unhappy, I don't know, it kind of seems tragic, actually, especially when there's something we can do about it. When there's a positive, practical, achievable, scientifically proven technique which allows our mind to be more healthy, to be more mindful and less distracted. And the beauty of it is that even though it kind of need only take about 10 minutes a day, it impacts our entire life. But we need to know how to do it. We need an exercise, we need a framework to learn how to be more mindful. That's essentially what meditation is. It's for me.
So it is good to remember that you can't change everything. And so it's best to focus on the issues that you can realistically change and that you will make a real difference in your stress levels. In other words, choose your battles wisely. So when we're problem solving, you want to analyze the problem that is being solved and choose which one you want to do. So which goal you want to go for. And then write down a description of that problem in very good detail. Ask yourself some questions of what, when, and where is this situation? What's the specific situation? How do you feel about it? Then take a step back and look a little bit bigger and have some other questions of, is this really a big problem? Or is this problem to other people? Is this a problem that will sit in the near future, in the near future, or even the future? And then also, like, will this improve your life if you actually work on it? Or do you even have control over this? And then move on from there. And so the problem solving process is continuous. It just is back and forth. And you might be defining and reflecting and preparing all the time. That's just what our mind is. But just like mindfulness, it's a constant flow. Okay, we never want to be stuck in the mud. Okay, so to problem solve, one has to set on a goal to accomplish. And once you have that objective you wish to achieve, it's not only about choosing what you want to enjoy, but the costs you are willing to pay to get that goal. Next, to get that goal, you will need to evaluate the ideas and choose the best solutions. That comes to brainstorming now. So now you've got to brainstorm as much as possible. You got to put down the good and the bad ideas in large sums. And next, we'll have some brainstorming techniques that are always fun to see which works best for you in certain situations, and if it works best for you as a person. To just summarize, just let's put this in motion of and make it clearer. We have first a goal, which is going to set the direction on where we're headed, like a rudder on a boat. Even though we have a set direction, our work is our brainstorming, which determines your progress, and that's your oars. But like a small boat, if you keep on changing your direction or your goals or your rudder, you'll just keep on rowing and going in a circle. So you got to make sure that you commit to one goal. Okay, so on to some ideas for brainstorming. First, it's mind mapping. Mind mapping is a tool that captures the thinking that goes inside your brain. First, there is a center theme or a problem subject. Then there is up to 7 associations that web out into levels. Each association is a co-subject, and the web just keeps on branching out from there. And just let me show you an example of it. So here we have a birthday, and you can see the co-subjects on the ideas, activities, location, and from there, you start to branch out from each co-subject and of what other things that you have to kind of think about to prepare for that party of that birthday party. So if you were going to apply this to a problem, you'd put the problem in the middle and then you branch out from there. It's a nice way of how our brain usually thinks. The next one is the sticky note technique. And I feel like the sticky note technique is a fun way to do with actually a group of people more so, but you can do it by yourself too. You put all your ideas, one idea on a sticky note, and you just keep on putting them out there, just a constant flow of ideas, doesn't good and bad. And then you will start to see that your ideas have connections. And that's when you will start to place sticky notes on top of each other. And it'll start to look like little clouds of sticky notes everywhere. And as you read these groupings of sticky notes, you will find that these subjects, they become subjects that you will put a P next to the ones that have the most priority. And the sticky note clouds that don't have a P, those you will just throw away. And then after you're done with putting the priority groups together, then you again take a step back and then you're going to start to number them based on urgency. What has to be done earlier and what could be done later. And that's how you do it. All right. So it can be very stressful just just trying to think of all these techniques and ideas. So it is important to give yourself some self-love and praise for opening yourself up to new ideas and techniques. And we have to think about how we can promote some more positive activity in our lives. And that is our next section, promoting positive activity. Here we have a cognitive triangle, which shows how our emotions affect our behaviors and thoughts, and it becomes a continuous triangle. Having a positive attitude or a mindset is very powerful. It can be defined as looking on the bright side or the silver lining of a cloud, which during challenging times, again, can really very much help you. Here is a example on how our thoughts and emotions affect our behavior.
But what if one of our volunteers was already good at basketball? Whoa, this guy's got game. he made a whopping 9 shots from the line. Think there's anything we could do to make him worse?
Okay, so let's have you take 1 shot. All right? You think you can do it, guys? All right, Josh, let's give it a shot. 3, 2, 1. Not quite, but it's all right. Let's let him try a second time. It's a tough one. All right. Wow. Let's give it a shot, Josh. All right. All right. Well, look, the man is blind. Okay. Let's go ahead and take off the blindfold. So listen, it wasn't as easy as we thought, but let's have you do your 10 throws again without the blindfold. Okay. Just do your thing. 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10. Okay. Let's see. You guys got his A game on? Come on, Josh. Whoa. All right, Josh. Got this, man. You got this. All right, that's 2.
Remember, this guy made 9 free throws earlier, but now it looks like the crowd's negative reinforcement is throwing him off his game.
All right. Lagging. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm kind of lagging. Okay. So how to add more positivity during your day. First, you're going to identify and plan 1 or more activities that you feel that gives you, that joy, that happiness. For example, listening to music, traveling could be like breathing exercises, meditating, journaling, eating healthy foods, just even saying positive things throughout your day. But the key is actually to schedule them onto your calendar, because it's up to you what kind of activities you want to do, what time you would want to do it, and when you would want to do that activity, and maybe with somebody too. It's even better. So probably if you do not start scheduling these activities, you probably would not start to do them. So it's very important to have somebody start to put them on your calendar. All right, next is managing reactions. Each person handles stress differently, and it can be seen differently. Common distressing reactions include feeling angry, sad, scared, tense, getting a headache or a stomach ache. And think about distressing reactions you see in yourself when you get stressed. These are important things to kind of realize, so you can kind of see what your limit is and when you should be taking some time for yourself. Some common triggers are financial stress, work stress, health-related stress, and emotional stress. And you could maybe ask yourself, where do you see more of your stress, or you're kind of like spread out into all of them, which is very normal too. It's very important to put kind of your stress into words, kind of to bring out some of those emotions. And a fun one that is to encourage storytelling. You can do it like within a home or anybody that's in a place that you can create a story, and then if there was a goal you wish to achieve, start organizing what you would want to do to achieve that goal through a story. And it's because stories equal positive emotions, goodwill, and a strong social connection, especially when you do it with a group of people, which results in resilience and lower stress. Also, I really encourage journaling. You can write down all positive thoughts and just do a brain dump, which is just writing what you feel, what you think at that time, and just write it down. Do not stop. You just keep on writing. A good exercise to bring yourself to mindfulness is and decreasing distressing reactions are breathing exercises. And here is an example of breathing exercise, which I think all of us could use.
Breathing exercises are a great way to focus on the present and be more mindful. Doing this can also help when you're feeling stressed or anxious. This short video will take you through how to do a mindful breathing exercise. Firstly, settle into a natural, comfortable position. When you're ready, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Breathe naturally, noticing the sensations of the breath entering and leaving the body as best you can. Allow your shoulders and neck to relax, focusing on your breathing, just being aware of it. Focus on how your body feels. What sensations do you notice? Do you feel your feet on the floor or the feeling of your clothes on your skin? Take this time to pay close attention to physical sensations, from the top of your head right down to your toes. Notice what you're thinking about right now and how you're feeling. Just take the time to notice your thoughts and feelings without judgment and without trying to change them. When you're ready, take one more breath and try to bring this awareness with you into the next moments of your day. Breathing techniques like this one can help to center you in the moment at any time and connect you with the present, which can help if you're feeling stressed or anxious.
All right.
Breathing exercises are a great way to focus.
All right. Notice how you feel after that exercise and jot it down, I would suggest. So next we're doing helpful thinking. Okay, thoughts are words or mental pictures in your mind that produces emotions and can be very powerful over our emotions. Negative thoughts will produce negative emotions, and positive thoughts will produce positive emotions. After a disaster or a stressful situation, people have trouble completely analyzing the situation or seeing the world as safe again. The key is thinking about helpful thoughts and identifying your unhelpful thoughts so that you can keep those quiet and replace them with helpful thoughts. So think of your common unhelpful thoughts that seem to always come into your brain. Some examples are, I am not safe, I don't trust anybody, I should be coping better. You want to understand that these are your unhelpful thoughts and make sure that you know, oh, these are my unhelpful thoughts and I should be switching this to some helpful thoughts. Now let's see how we can how we can bring some helpful thoughts into our mind. If you're having trouble with thinking about helpful thoughts, here's an exercise that can help you. Now, I won't show this video, but an exercise that you can do is you just close your eyes, you do a nice deep breath in and deep breath out, and you start to smile. Just smile. And you want to feel, what does that smile bring you? Does it bring you joy? Does it give you some tingles in your hands? Do you feel some warmth on your skin? Do you start to think about happy thoughts from your past? And when you're doing this smiling exercise, that's when you're going to start writing down your helpful thoughts. Just switch. Okay, so and then you're going to practice saying out loud and rehearse your helpful thoughts. So maybe imagine a situation that is very stressful, that you start to think about your unhelpful thoughts, and then replace those thoughts with these new helpful thoughts that you just thought of when you were smiling. It takes many tries, and it could be hard at first and frustrating, but you see, during time, it will lead to some progress. All right, our last section is rebuilding healthy social connections. This is one of the most important ones, I feel, because we have lost so many people with social isolation. The definition of social connection is the subjective experience of feeling close to and a sense of belonging with others. Social connection can have an outcome of increased immunity, 50% increased change of longevity, decreased anxiety and depression, and increased emotional regulation. Here is an example of how loneliness and isolation can affect somebody.
Got it good.
Us as human beings are social creatures, and the evidence is suggesting that without that social contact, there are actually measurable negative impacts on both physical health as well as mental health.
Regardless of where you live or how old you are, you might feel lonely at some point in your life. I know I have. But this feeling of loneliness and isolation is much more serious than you think. And those who suffer from it the most are those we praise for having lived long and healthy lives.
It's depressing. I'm homebound. Sometimes I'm alone, right? All day, I say to myself, who am I going to call?
I'm reaching people who are in need of just feeling connected. And part of the imagination is important because it helps you continue to feel engaged, and you're not just in that little bubble that's your isolation.
Social scientists have just begun to explore the positive effects of reading, using your imagination, and the benefits of seeking and nurturing relationships as we age. All this in order to alleviate the negative effects of an epidemic, now known as social isolation.
I was born July 29th, 1922. The only place I go every 3 to 4 months is the doctor. For 7 days a week, maybe I have about 7 or 8 hours of company. Otherwise, I'm alone.
2 teams working in 2 separate pods. My mom was very, very sociable, always inviting people over, and she would travel. So she's been around, you know. She's not someone who lets grass grow under her feet. So getting a little older and not being able to move around as much as she would like to has been difficult for her.
Sure.
My husband and I try to come here during the week at least. But she loves it here and she doesn't want to leave it. So we have to come to her and do what we can.
Social isolation is not unique to older individuals, but older age is actually one of the biggest, if not the biggest, risk factors for social isolation. And studies show that things like loneliness and social isolation can be as potent as things like smoking.
And he's not kidding. The effects of isolation and loneliness are comparable to smoking as many as 15 cigarettes a day, to be specific. Other negative health effects can be chronic health conditions such as heart disease, a weakened immune system, high risk for depression and anxiety, and the worsening of dementia and Alzheimer's. Now,
all right, so now we are going to create a social connections map, which allows us to see the big picture of who we are connected to and see the connections, who these connections mean. First, think about the people that you are closest to, and it doesn't have to be by distance. Now, how do you connect and how many times a week do you talk to these people? As you think of these people, do you realize that there are maybe some people you may have lost connection with? And if so, was it after a situation or event? So people make differences in our lives, like family members, caregivers, and other people that are like family. But use your connections map to know who you can turn to during times that feel difficult. Use your multiple connections to get the amount of support you need and reconnect to those that you lost contact with. And remember that that you can go to, if there's gaps in your social connections maps, that you can go to, like the gym, the senior center, the local grocery stores to help fill in the gaps. Also use problem solving skills and managing reaction skills to change existing relationships that could cause harm and reach out for help. And so thank you so much. That is it from Utah Strong. You can always call us from our hotline at 385-386-2289 every day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Or you can always email us. We are here for mental health services or other resources. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brianna. This was very helpful information. I want to see if anybody has any questions for Brianna. So you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. Kathy says thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I don't think there are any questions. So we appreciate your time and being here today, Brianna. And
okay, thank you.
We will see everybody next Tuesday at 2 o'clock with another great topic. And I'm putting in the chat your last chance for the Healthy Lifestyle Survey so that you guys can fill it out if you want to look at the chat. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And Brianna.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day, everyone.
Too.